Record. All right. Good morning and welcome to another episode of Student Affairs Shares. My name is Nikita Haney. I'm the director of the Office of Family Engagement, and I'm super excited about this next session. And so today we have a guest from Student Support and Case Management, and I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves.
Thanks, Nikita. Hi, everyone. My name is Rachel Auten. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the director of the Student Support and Case Management Office here in Student Affairs. So I am a social worker, went to KU as my undergrad, and then did grad school in Chicago, and now I'm back here and loving what we do here. So really excited to be here for Student Affairs Shares.
All right, thank you so much, Rachel. So, first and foremost, can you share with our parents, families, and supporters of our students a little bit about student support and case management and all of the wonderful things that you're doing here at the university?
Yeah. So the easiest way to describe our office is that we are an office of social workers here at KU, and we provide non-clinical support to students who may be going through any type of struggle or barrier, hardship, or just truly if a student feels lost on campus and doesn't know where to turn for their questions or needs, they can come to us. So, like I said, we're non-clinical, which means that we are not therapists or counselors, so we differ from our CAPS office in student affairs. But as licensed social workers, we can provide support really in any area that a student might be struggling, talk through that with them, assess needs, and then get them connected to the resources, policies, options, or other long-term supports that may be needed in a way that is really individualized. And this campus is a really big place. We are so resource rich in Lawrence and here at KU, which is great. But if a student is struggling or overwhelmed, it can be really hard to figure out what resources exist, what would be the best fit for them, who to contact within a specific office. And so our goal is to really break that down for them, create a plan where we are doing some of the work of reaching out to different offices and getting information that they may need, but also empowering students to also do some of that on their own with the right information and the right help. And yeah, just working collaboratively together to hopefully kind of overcome some of those barriers and hardships and have them be healthy and successful academically and overall here at KU.
Thank you so much. We know how important student support and case management is to the Jayhawk experience. And so, thank you so much for sharing that particular information. Before we jump into some of the questions that we know that parents and families might have for you, Rachel, and your staff, can you tell us where you're located on campus?
Mhm. Yep, so we're in Summerfield Hall, so just down the hill from Jayhawk Boulevard, and we're in Suite 350, so up on the third floor. And it's a pretty good location because students are passing this way to go to classes. We're right up from Lot 90, the rec center, where a lot of our students park and then get up to the boulevard. So yeah, we're pretty centralized on campus, but then also we can meet with students over Zoom. And we always make that an option if that's the easiest way to connect with us too.
Thank you so much for that. So we know right now we are coming up on the season changing. Fall break is on the horizon. And so want to get into some of these important questions that parents and families might have. So first and foremost, if a student is struggling, how would a parent know whether student support and case management is the right place for them to go for help?
Yeah, so the simplified answer is that we are never the wrong place to start because even if we might not need to fully engage with a student, if we just can pass them off directly or give you the information, like for the financial aid office, if you have a simple financial aid question, we're still a good place to start because we kind of know a lot about everywhere on campus and get you connected there. But when we would really engage with your student and work with them on an individualized basis, is really if a student has overwhelming needs in any area of life or if they have multiple needs that are impacting each other. So a lot of our students that we work with, it starts out with maybe they're feeling overwhelmed in their classes, so then they might not be going to classes, or then their mental health starts to dip a little bit and they're struggling with that. Or maybe they lost their job, or you as their parent lost their job, and finances start to become a struggle, and they just really don't know where to turn, don't know how to connect, or again, those multiple layers of needs are then starting to affect each other, that's really when we would suggest case management become involved because, again, we can parcel out each of those needs, assess what areas should be focused on first, get you connected, get your student connected to the offices to address all of those, all while kind of helping them navigate it so they're not having to do it alone.
Thank you so much for that. And so you touched on the different areas where a student could potentially be experiencing some of that distress or that struggle, right? So let's say a student does come to your office. Can you kind of talk a little bit about what happens after a student is referred to your office, or even more, if a parent submits a care report? And can you kind of talk about what is a care report?
Yeah, so our care referral system, you can find the care referral form on our website, which is student support at .ku.edu or the student affairs main page. But you can submit a referral form with your information, your student's information, and then just it's a blank text box where you can put in the information of what your student may be struggling with, why you're reaching out, what you're hoping to get them connected with. You can submit documentation, if there's email exchanges or a letter from a therapist or doctor, really anything that would support the need for that referral. And then it comes directly to us in case management, and then we will get it assigned to the case manager. We'll respond to you once we get that referral to connect you directly to the case manager that will be reaching out to your student, so that you can continue to share information if needed. So that's a really great way to connect with us. But also you can always just call us or email us. So our number is 785-864-7022, or our email is studentsupport@ku.edu. And both of those ways you can call and get connected to our administrative assistant, Melissa. She is wonderful, and she will talk you through kind of the information we need to know, gather that from you. She'll give you information on resources. If case management doesn't necessarily need to get involved, she'll give you that information so that you have it. But if we will do outreach to your student, she again will take down that information and then she'll submit that care referral to get that process started. So any of those ways are great, but once we get that information, get that referral, what it looks like is most typically I will figure out which case manager will do the connection to your student. If the risk is not necessarily high in that moment or our concerns aren't urgent, we almost always start with email outreach just so that students can respond on their own time and kind of sit with the information before having to speak with us. If they don't respond to email, we'll try to call them. We know students don't always love answering their phone, but a lot will still answer and talk to us. So we do try to call if we're not getting to them by email. And again, if the situation is more urgent, we might start with a phone call. If they live on campus, we might try to get housing to engage with them if we're not getting them right away. But for our most typical situations, I would say we start with email, let them respond. Maybe we'll call. If they don't respond to that, we'll send one more email. But really, we don't compel students to meet with us. This is not a punitive situation at all. We are purely here for support and wanting to help students if they want to engage with us. So we just kind of let them respond to us. But if they want to meet with us, they reply back. We get them scheduled as soon as really it works for both of our calendars. But almost always it's within a few days of getting that information, if not same or next day. And then we'll just meet with them and start that process of assessment and getting them connected to the resources.
Thank you so much for that, Rachel. And so you mentioned, obviously outreaching to the student is not punitive, just kind of allowing them to reach back out to you all, things of that nature, right? So let's say the situation is of serious, extenuating circumstances. How quickly is your office able to connect with the student?
So for the most serious situations where we are concerned about immediate safety, if you were to call us, we would be connecting with KU police and getting, emergency service response. So connecting with housing if they're on campus, and doing that immediately. I will say my office is not, and the care referral system is not an emergency response um, form. And so if you have immediate safety concerns for your student, KUPD would be the first call. You can always follow up with my office, follow up with a care referral to get some of that aftercare support. But if you have immediate safety, well-being concerns for a student's risk to self or others, KUPD is where we want you to start that process. But if we're not at that level, but we're still thinking like the student needs someone to connect with them pretty immediately. Our outreach starts same day we get that information, with the exception of after business hours at 5 o'clock, then that would be next day. But really, our case managers are equipped to get out that outreach process started immediately upon getting referral. It might be a few hours later based on schedules, but we start that process and try to get students in within a few days, definitely within the same week if it works for your student schedule too.
Thank you so much. What are, I know that the spectrum of issues that students might come to your space for assistance with could vary. And if you're able, what are some common issues that you see students facing when they have reached that point where they're like, okay, I need to go to student support and case management and talk to
Yeah.
someone?
Yeah, so I think anything and everything that you can think of, we have seen in the almost 8 years that this office has been around. Most typically, I would say students are struggling with some sort of mental health need. So whether that is anxiety, depression, suicidal thoughts, but also just homesickness. Right now we're, like you said, we're getting into the point of the semester where midterms are coming up, the seasons are changing, it's getting dark earlier, the kind of newness and excitement of being at KU for the new semester kind of wears off to a degree for our students. And so sometimes, we get just homesickness and sometimes just loneliness situations that impact mental health and well-being. Outside of that, academic concerns. So again, students might be here for the first time figuring out their study habits or what they want to do for their major, and classes can become overwhelming. So we can help students figure out how to communicate with their faculty, how to connect with their advisor, figure out if they need to withdraw or switch classes, things like that. Financial needs are definitely one that we see as well. So students just having difficulty paying for basic needs, paying for tuition, just trying to figure out a budget as they're here and maybe on their own managing their finances for the first time. But any like significant loss, if someone loses a family member or close friend in college, we can help navigate that with them. Other family emergency situations, if a student again has to leave campus or is hospitalized for any reason, we can help communicate with faculty so that students aren't having to also navigate that on top of an emergency situation. So yeah, just really any question that parents have or students have, again, even if we're maybe not the most right office, we're still a right office to contact first, because we will also help you get the phone number, get the email or contact of the person, so that you don't lovingly get lost in what we call the KU shuffle, where people are just trying to do their best but are kind of passing you around from office to office. We will try to navigate that with you and get you to the right location first try.
Yes, I love that. Jayhawk Shuffle, we don't want that. So,
Yeah.
in that, and we know that student affairs is a very collaborative unit, right? And so, you talked a lot about resources. If just giving an example, a student comes and they need that referral to a different campus resource, can you talk a little bit about how student support and case management does that pass off so that you can ensure, like, okay, we did make sure that the student got connected with the necessary resource for whatever issue that they might be facing.
Yep, yep. So first is just shout out to, yeah, all of our student affairs and other resource offices on this campus, because we do important work, but also like we could not do our job if all of these other wonderful offices did not exist. So they are the ones doing the most work too. So yeah, if a student needs CAPS or needs the Student Access Center for academic accommodations, we will talk that through with them. We can talk through what it looks like to connect with them. We can if a student is meeting with us, we can call those offices together and schedule appointments, or send emails with a student in our office and copying each other in so that we can make sure that connection happens. Um, if a student is willing and able, we sometimes will walk students to resources. So for example, CAPS, if a student really needs to be seen that day by a counselor, it's right down the street from us and we can walk them over there, get them situated, make sure they get connected for that appointment, and then we'll leave and come back to our office. But yeah, we really try to do as much as possible what we call warm handoffs, where we are actually handing that student over to the next step instead of just saying, oh, here's a phone number, you call them and figure it out. Like that's our role, is again to provide that individualized support to get you connected to the right person. So yeah, whether it's financial aid, CAPS, Student Access Center, Hero, doing some of our like health and wellness work, Watkins for medical appointments, we'll try to do that warm handoff as much as possible.
Yes, and I love that because we often know that sometimes students can, they come to our spaces, they ask for this assistance. And so I'm glad that you all are being intentional about making sure you're getting the student connected. So at the very least, they can say the student support and case management office made sure I had the resource. And now, whether or not they utilize that, obviously that's completely at their own accord. And so if a student outreaches to student support and case management, will someone follow up with them to make sure that they're getting what they need? And then what would that turnaround process be for that follow up?
Yeah, so if a student reaches out to us directly, most often we see that as they call our office or send an email to our inbox. We will respond to that again within same day, almost always. There might be some exception where it has to be next day, but if it's within business hours, we're responding to that pretty quickly. And then just starting pretty much the same process of a case manager gets assigned, and then they are outreaching that student, offering to meet, again, in person, Zoom. If they just want to talk over phone and email, we can do that too. But just seeing what their needs are and then starting that process that we've talked about.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. And then last question for you. If parents and families want to kind of stay up to date about student support and case management, where can they do that? And what is your recommendation on how they just keep that touch point on what your office has to offer?
hmm So best way is just our website. We don't do, I would say, a lot of like outreach events and programming on our own. We join a lot. So like family engagement. When Hero had their wellness fair last week, we were there and we're tabling orientation, things like that. But the basis of our work is connecting with students every day. So we rely on our other great offices to do a lot of our promotion. But our website, studentsupport.ku.edu, has our information. You can see our case manager profiles, connect with us that way. But yeah, otherwise just email or call us. If you do submit a referral or call us and we start outreaching your students, most likely if they're over 18, they are adults. And so we walk that FERPA line of we can't share information back to you in a lot of cases without their consent. But you can share information with us. So if you have updates on your student, if you have further concerns to share, you can keep calling and emailing us and checking in, and we'll share the information that we can. And we always do try to close the loop back. So if you submit a referral, we might not communicate with you along the way, but once we are closing the case where we feel like our outreach either hasn't been responded to, but the student has our information, and we'll just trust that they will reach out to us if needed, or if we've worked with them and feel like it's at a point now where they're connected to the right long-term resources and we're closing, we will loop back into you to tell you, hey, we're closing this case because of this reason. So that way you just know like our outreach has stopped, and if concerns come up again, you can communicate back to us and we'll restart that process.
Well, thank you so much, Rachel, for all that you do and the rest of your wonderful social workers and staff in your office. Definitely a resource much needed on this campus. And so thank you for joining me today. And parents and families, be sure to connect with Rachel's office by utilizing that website. And we will see you next time on Student Affairs Shares.
Thank you.
You're welcome.